teachers who have completed the 2016 Aspiring Leadership Program. At May's Personnel Committee meeting, we shared information about our Aspiring Leadership Program, a year-long program that supports district teachers who aspire to administrative positions in their future. This year, 2 teachers, Mrs. Patton and Mr. Jablonski, have completed the program by participating in monthly meetings with guest speakers to help with discernment, self-reflection, and goal setting. District leadership activities, which included a district-level research project. You may remember that Shannon's project was the development of the district's new focus room at the high school, and Joe's project was the development of a new comprehensive middle school schedule for tutorials. Shannon and Joe culminated the program with a mock interview with the district core team and presentation of their administrative portfolios and their entry plans. So without further ado, please join me in congratulating Mrs. Shannon Patton and Mr. Joey Jablonski on completion of the 2016 Aspiring Leadership Program. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Joe. Congratulations.
Okay. Thank you for all your hard work. Appreciate it. Item 1.06, hearing financial presentation. Mr. O'Toole. Mr. O'Toole and Mr. Hall. And Mr. Hall, thank you. Let me write that down.
I like the double T good news.
Okay,
You guys good with that?
Sure. Mr.
Everybody
Hall.
okay?
Mr. Hall.
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Lights on, turn the lights off and there's video streaming.
That's right. One more. Another one?
Oh.
There you go. Okay. We're video streaming, so we're testing our lighting and audio, so. Go ahead.
okay, so we are going to present historical where we were the past 3 years, as well as a future look here at Mill Creek. So if we go back to 2013, let's take a look at where Mill Creek was sitting at that point in time. At a negative unassigned fund balance of about $570,000. Been operating at a deficit for the previous 5 years. Started 2013-14 budget year at a deficit of $8.8 million. There's no money for capital projects, IT equipment, PZERs, no money put away for any of these future costs. Had rising healthcare expenses, minimal tax increases for the previous 10 years. I believe it's 5 out of those 10 years we actually had a tax increase. Most of those I don't even think were to the index. Needed to restructure debt and spend the bond money. And restructuring of that was helping collapse that $8.8 million. We needed to reduce and eliminate programs, staff, in order to balance a budget. We had poor internal controls and the data quality wasn't there as well as was represented in the state auditor's recommendations. And there was a fractured district community.
Let me just add, it was almost, I wrote the article a couple months ago that showed up in the paper where I said it was almost 3 years ago to the day that I stood in front of the Grandview folks and talked about all of this. But I want to also add to this that at that time, we had no assistant superintendent in place. We had a business manager who was very much maligned. There was a lot of public pressure to do something about the business manager. We had Mr. Delfrat, who was serving in another capacity, thankfully, who I will say, never forget the day he came to me when it happened. He knocked on the door, he says, "What do you need? I'll do whatever you need." So thank you for that back then, as did all these other people who were here. I had Dr. Detisch, thankfully. I had Dr. Greenaway, thankfully. And Mr. Ninetemp, who's on vacation, so I'm not going to give him any credit for anything since he's not here. But, we had issues, and I had my doubts about our internal controls and the information coming out of the business office. And as you know, we fortunately were able to hire this young man who has done wonders for us. So we want to go back. We don't need to talk about all the other things that happened in between then and now, although we know about closing buildings and programs and all that, but we want to end this presentation with where we are tonight, which we think is really good.
So what have we done in the past 3 years? And this isn't all-inclusive, but it is at kind of a high level here. We've upgraded our instructional materials. I believe we spent over $1.5 million in the last 3 years alone on instructional materials. We've been able to maintain and raise achievement scores.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this about maintaining and raising achievement scores. As you all know, last year was a freeze on the SPP scores. However, previous to that, we did see a small bump at the high school in our SPP scores. The other areas, as you know, our middle schools are very strong SPP score-wise, and our elementary schools are always in the 80s, mid-80s, which are very good scores. So, you know, my piece to this is during the 3 years, we're focusing on instruction and not taking our eye off of that target. And I think that's going to pay off when these scores come out this year. But we'll go back to that. And I think that's right, Susan. Weren't we over 1.5 million for instructional materials? So,
Yes.
you know,
Across
while
the
we were
board,
trying to
financial.
rebound financially, we're still investing in our kids and our programs during that time.
Able to update our facilities, the safety, the curricular, and also extracurricular facilities, of course using the bond money. We've upgraded the HR business software. Technically that goes live on 7/1. It's taken us a while to get to that point, but we're finally there. We've upgraded our student demographic software with IC, which has allowed us to streamline a lot of different areas for our process and improve in our data quality. Centralized operational functions to improve data quality, internal controls, and reporting. A good example of this is our central registration. Rather than having it in the other buildings, we've centralized it to here. What's that done? That's actually improved our data quality. It's allowed us to make sure we have our proper documentation in place and, in sense, better reporting. We've replaced all K-8 through 8 technology, targeted replacements 9 through 12. As you guys approved the lease payment for that, that's be coming out this upcoming year. We've upgraded our wireless infrastructure, 100% wireless density, 6 through 12. After the summer, 6 through 12, each building, 100% coverage, wireless. We managed our budgets for 3 consecutive years. We're going to have surplus this year as well, which is where we're going to build to.
I'm going to go back to the facilities because I know it's old news, but I think it's good to repeat the safety. We have state-of-the-art camera systems up in the high school, which have really come in handy for our folks up there. We made that walkway safer and more manageable for our kids in the wintertime who are going back and forth. We did the fire alarms in both buildings, updated the fire systems, the science labs, Chestnut Hill, doors, windows, MIHS, energy efficiency improvements, the, what do we call the rooms off the cafeteria? The atriums, lounge at McDowell. So, you know, I just said to Tom, when we were up looking at the improvements that are going on right now in phase 3, you want to talk about stretching $24 million, I think we stretch it about as well as you can. But again, in 2013, we got the message from Mr. Senate, you got to start spending the money or else. I think that's what you said. So we were able to do that.
So where are we going? We obviously just showed you where it was 3 years ago, what we've been able to do in the last 3 years, but we're no longer trying to just look on an annual basis here of what can we do for this upcoming year. We're more looking down the road. How can we plan? What's the future outlook for Mill Creek? Well, if we can look at our enrollment, you can clearly see our enrollment is declining. And this will tie exactly to the enrollment reports you see for this current year for the first 4 years. What I did here is I took PDE actually uses birth rates and retention rates that you can actually pull off PDE's website to project out for them. And they'll use multiple different resources in order to get those rates. We were off about 115 kids for the 15-16 year. They were projecting 115 more. So I did reduce each following years by 115 kids. But as you can see, it's all about the trend. We're trending downward. And I think that's common in all of Erie. You're seeing the total trend in Erie moving downward, as well as the state of Pennsylvania, actually. So let's take a look at our long-term plan. We just talked about how we just upgraded IT, we updated facilities. We know that we have equipment that's dated that needs to be updated. So as we look